really excited about this next conversation. It is titled Journey to the Crown. And it is going to be a discussion with some incredible women from King. So please welcome to the stage Desirée Brathwaite, Nazareth Tekeste, Lauren Blake, and Anna Carolina Luca. Please give these amazing ladies a round of applause. And anyone else that would like to join us, please do come forward, take a seat. This is going to be a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Carolina. I am the project manager for D&I at King. I'm here to introduce this amazing panel today. And at the end, we're going to have time for some questions. So please listen to them, keep thinking about your questions, and you have time to ask later. And yeah, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nazareth. I go by Naz. I'm one of the people directors at King. I'm super humbled and excited to be here. I've never been on this side of the audience. I'm really excited, but equally nervous, but happy to be here to share my story together with these beautiful queens. Handing over to you, Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren, Senior Manager for Learning and Development at King, and I am massively humbled to not only share the stage with these amazing women, but just be on this stage to be able to share my story. That's me.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. My name is Desirée Brathwaite. I'm head of production, Portfolio Games. I've also been working with the Candy Crush franchise for pretty much most of my career at King. I am unbelievably happy to be here. Wonderful to see this sea of talent and excellence already, just in the first hour of being here. Thank you for having us.
I didn't mention this before, but if you don't know, King is the maker of Candy Crush. That probably you know. So we have stands over there and over there later if you want to talk to us after the talk. We're with ABK as well, so Activision Blizzard King. So yeah. I'm going to ask the first question. Tell us a little bit about your journeys until you got to King.
Yeah, I can start. Before I joined King, I didn't work in gaming, actually. It's my first career in the gaming space. I've been at King for coming up to 10 years. I had no idea I was going to be at King for 10 years. It's been a fantastic journey. But before King, I studied accounting and statistics. It's work in HR. I don't know how the degrees match here in terms of what I did in my career. But being an East African girl, your parents kind of give you 4 options in terms of what you can study. Because, in terms of the background and the heritage of where I've come from, my mother, she grew up in a small village in Eritrea. And it was war-torn at the time that she was leaving. And she, left and she found herself in a different place. And, she didn't go to school. She didn't have education. So when she had 2 young children, she wanted the best for them. And the best meant having an education in a reputable degree, such as engineering, accounting, being a doctor or being a lawyer. And none of the others resonated with me except for accounting because I was good at maths. And so I thought, okay, let's do that. But actually, that's not what I wanted to do. And it was by accident that I discovered being a recruiter. I'm a people's person. I connect very well with people. And so my first job was recruitment in an agency. And I found myself working in companies like Transport for London, working for banks like Royal Bank of Scotland. And then I found myself, thinking, I don't want to do this in a corporate environment anymore. I want to do something where I can be someone and discover and be creative. And that's how I came across King. And that's, I'll tell you a little bit more about my story in King, but I also think I'll save some of that because I'd love to hear, Lauren, about your story as what you did before you came to King.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Naz. So I guess a little bit about me as an individual and my journey. My journey to the seat at the table, if you like, is one that is about representation, because for me, representation is paramount and so, so important. I come from humble beginnings. I didn't really leave school with a huge amount of qualifications, so I've worked kind of my whole career, I guess. And for me, as a role model to two young black children, I think it's important for me to break down barriers, to ensure that doors are open and to be the change that I want to see. So I think if I go back to my career, probably quite a few years, and my first ever promotion, I remember one of my colleagues saying to me, "Oh, like, you must be so proud, you know, you've made it, like, this is great. You can kind of, like, you know, take your foot off the gas and, yeah, put your feet up now," sort of thing. And I guess in short, my answer was, no, I can't, because the moment that I stop striving, the moment that I take my foot off the gas, I'm then not going to be the role model that I want to be to my boys. So for me, being in a senior position at King is so, so important, not for money, not for status, and not necessarily even for respect, but because I want to be the change, and I am part of the change that I want to see. And I think the fact that people can look at all of us really in senior positions at King and say, do you know what, I can see it, I can be it. That's for me what about being at a senior position is about. And I think I guess I grew up in the notion that as a woman of colour, as a black woman, you need to work twice as hard to get equal opportunities as your white counterparts. And I think the difference and the slant of the conversation that I'm now having with my children is, yeah, in some institutionally racist businesses, you do have to work twice as hard. But there are so many businesses out there where you don't, where they want you, they welcome you with open arms for your diversity of thought, for the, you know, just the difference that you bring. And I think for me, that is why it's so important working at King. I think we've all been there where, you know, you go for an interview and you're doing the hours of preparation. What do they want to see? What questions they're going to ask me? How do I need to be? I really want to get this job. And I think for me, that was the change when I went through my interview process at King, because I turned up and I was truly my authentic self, not the version, the professional version that everybody wants to see. Me, I turned up as me, my authentic self. And it was about me finding out if this business was one that was right for me as well as being right for them. Because I don't want to be the culture fit, I want to be the culture adds. And as I've said before, for me it's important to be the change that you want to see. Like when they tell you you can't, you can. You can open doors, you can break through ceilings. And I think that King is a place that I see a long career in, because they not only welcome me being my authentic self, I get to work with amazing people that look like me, you know, and I think, you know, like I said, representation is important and it's everything to me. And for me as a role model to my children, I want to show them that don't let anybody tell you you can't, because you can. Over to you, Des.
Well, thanks, Lauren. This is going to be easy. Yeah, I would say actually one of the reasons, to pick up on the last thread of representation mattering, that it is so important that we show up in these spaces as who we are, is because even on this stage, so many different backgrounds getting to where we are today, and how much that's enriched the culture at King just in the spaces where we're at. So I'm currently in the Stockholm office where I have been. That's where I started my career, and that's where King started. And I have to say, I guess you all can imagine that I was definitely the first and the only black woman or black person in the office at King for quite a few years. And interestingly enough, I think one of the things that helped me get through that, because it is tough, it is. But one of the things that helped me get through that is the fact that growing up, I watched my parents also be the only ones in the spaces that they worked and occupied. And both of my parents hailing from the fantastic, beautiful island of Barbados and making it to Brooklyn, New York, I have to say I knew what community looked like, so I never thirsted for an ability to carry that with me. I never really felt alone, but that is one of the challenges of not having more people to interact with that recognize similar threads of challenges that you do. You do feel quite alone. And myself, one of the things that has been very important to me in the past, I would say 7 years when I started taking on leadership position in the game studio, whether it was as an agile coach or whether it is, as it currently is now, in production as a producer, it became more and more apparent to me how important authenticity is, not just to me and my mental well-being and to my professional prowess, but it's also important to the people around me. I'm actually leading by example when I show up in that space, culturally authentic, intellectually authentic, and also professionally. Being a producer for mobile games, as you can imagine, you're use the cliche, you're holding lots of balls in the air, you're juggling lots of balls in the air, but you're also managing an environment where people have to feel psychologically safe. And sometimes the challenge there is your own psychological safety as the leader that's creating that space is not always apparent. It's not always a given. So that vulnerability is the part where I've leaned on the most in my leadership journey at King. I've relate to others. I use curiosity in my approach. I'm naturally quite empathetic, mostly because I have grown up as well in many places that are not my origin. I also lived in Saudi Arabia as a teenager. I've also lived in Westchester County, Chappaqua, New York, which is a very, very monolithic environment. And so these are places where I had to hold my culture and my community in myself. And encouraging others that just moved to Stockholm, Sweden for the first time to feel that there is a space for them and make them psychologically safe. I share a lot of my own journey in order to make others feel that there is a place for them as well. And I think that is something that we're going to talk a little bit more about throughout the next couple of minutes we have. Go ahead, Anna.
Yes. By the way, thank you, because when I moved to Stockholm for the first time, you were the one helping me through a lot of stuff. So to go back to the points that you were making about representation and diversity, how did it fare to you, the differences between other industries and the games industry in that sense?
Other industries, I think diversity is also about inclusion, right? It's about feeling that sense of belonging. And, working in the corporate environments, you need to button up in a certain way and shake hands when you walk into a meeting room and present in a certain style. And when it comes to King, it's like full of fun, full of character. Bring your energy, boo who you are, have a laugh, just be you. And when I have very serious meetings in the role that I do, I bring my character to work. I bring who I am. What you see is what you get. And, in the role that I am, sometimes, when employees and Kingsters, I say, hey, can I have a chat with you? They're like, what do you want? Because, you're HR. I don't want anything from you. I want to hear your perspective. That's what I want. And so when you connect with people and you find a space not only that gives you the platform to be who you are, that gives you the opportunity to shape things, that let you make an impact and then say, here's a blank piece of paper. What do you think? And they give you that space. So much creativity and energy comes out of that. So going from a structured corporate environment where you have to be very formal to be you, the first few weeks of that was like, it was a lot. I remember just before I joined King was celebrating its 10th birthday, and I got an email and it said, hey, give us your details. We're going to book flights for you to go to Dubai. Why? I didn't do anything. Why do I deserve to go to Dubai? I don't understand what's happening here. We're celebrating our 10th birthday, so we're all going to Dubai. Okay, so I went along. And, even going back to my first day at King, I was based in Barcelona. It was April. It was sunny and warm in Barcelona. But I was told to go to Sweden for my induction. And so I was wearing these bright, summery, vibrant colors, and my app told me Sweden is also sunny. So I thought, okay, let's get on this plane with my sunny wear. And I get to Sweden and it's snowing. And I was like, what am I going to do? I don't have clothes that will keep me warm. But when I got there, my new colleagues, they didn't look at me and say, make me feel stupid. They said, let me give you a coat and a scarf. And they gave me warmth. And that was when I first realized, even though I was the only black woman when I was in my induction, and I came across Des at a later stage on the dance floor, even though I was the only black woman on my induction, I felt the warmth. I didn't feel different. I felt welcomed. I felt included. And I think inclusion is a big thing. And that's what King does really well. Even though there aren't that many people that look like me, even when I sit on the leadership table in different forums that I'm in, I still feel like I can make an impact and have a voice. And, I didn't know that I could do that in other companies. So I think professionally and personally, I've grown so much without having to change an ounce of who I am, but just add on to who I am and bring and express myself in ways that I didn't know that I could is what, where I can fare the differences are in terms of my previous experience and what I've gone through with King.
I would say for me, just to build on that, definitely bringing your authentic self is one of the key differences. I think I've worked most across a number of different industries and a lot of my career in finance and banking and corporate environments where you're encouraged to bring yourself, but the version of yourself that we want to see, the version of yourself that is maybe not so loud, maybe, not so sassy or whatever the wording may be. And I think that the difference for me at King is feeling comfortable to be my authentic self. I think diversity, is on pretty much every organization's agenda, right? But diversity is nothing without inclusion and belonging. And that is what I get at King. I feel like I belong.
I couldn't help but go back to the anecdote of meeting you on the dance floor. we both of us, interestingly enough, thought we were the only black people at King, and it was a fantastic company conference where we had, our own little spaces somewhere on the dance floor. And then we managed to, what song was it? I don't know what song it was, probably hip hop, that all of a sudden we turned and just got an eyeful of melanin way across the dance, and we sort of gravitated toward each other, and I have to say what that did for me, because I I had just been, working and involved in my career at King, the goals we had at the time, trying to get a foothold in mobile. I didn't think about how alone I was. I didn't think about how I didn't have mentors. I didn't have anything or anyone that actually actively engaged me in thinking about what I was actually trailblazing or what I was actually setting up for others in the way. I didn't have that awareness until all of a sudden I felt the amazing pull of having someone else that looked like me just standing just an arm's distance away. It was powerful. And that's me after already having at least 10, 15 years of a professional career before I came to King. So it was quite interesting that even at, I'm not going to give away my age. If you think I'm going to try to do it, you're not going to get it from me. But even at that level of experience, it still means something. It encouraged me to say, well, if I can feel like this, imagine how important that is to new starting professionals, right? Young professionals. And pretty soon, we really are curious if there are people here interested in games, especially anyone representing any of the intersections of diversity. We want to hear your questions at the end.
And I guess, kind of to wrap up this talking bit, let me see where my questions are. I guess you touched upon so many things. Where was it? Oh, yeah, here. Do you have any advice for new joiners, people that are coming up, new starters, or young professionals that you want to give?
Yeah, I think look, a lot of changes are happening from a DE&I perspective. We're seeing a lot of companies make bold moves about what they want to do to create that DE&I's forum and have more representation in the workplace. But when it's not just about what the company wants from us, and as we heard from Lauren and Des, it's about us hearing from, when you go to interviews, it's a two-way conversation. Never go into an interview feeling like I'm the only one that needs to show up. Companies need to show up. Why are you going there? You get to pick. You get the choice of where you want to work. When I joined King, it was, it was a startup, and a lot of things were quite messy. And I remember going to my interview, and there's somebody else at reception came in asking for the same person that I asked for the same time that I had, and I thought, what is going on here? And I was a talent acquisition specialist, and I was like, they don't have their stuff in order. This is going to be interesting. And I had to wait, and I was told, go and have a drink, and we'll come back for you in an hour. And I was like, an hour? What? Why do I even want to stay here? But I stayed, and I thought, let me see how this pans out. And what came to realization is when I was talking to them in my interview, the smiles that they had on their face based on me telling them what I am capable of, you could see there was like this energy and this connection. And I was thinking, okay, let's see where else this goes. I walked away from the interview thinking, okay, on balance, what's going on here? This is a bit messy. I've got lots of experience. They were really happy I was happy with that, but this interview start didn't go very well. And I thought I could walk away, and I thought, well, no, it seems like they need my help. They need my help, and I know I can do it. So the reason I joined King was because I believe that I could make an impact. They don't know what they're doing. I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to show them what I can do. And 10 years later, I've progressed in multiple roles. I'm on different tables making decisions and having the opportunity to make change. Just remember that, though, if you sense something like that, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's probably an opportunity that comes out of that. But what you should look for is that the connection that you have, that those moments. It's not just about us asking you questions. It's your interview to check us out. Do you want to have a career with these people too? It's a relationship. Do you want to have an employment relationship with these people who are going to make decisions about your career, your progress, your pay, how you feel in the company? Choose wisely. You have the opportunity to pick and choose. So great progress in the D&I space when it comes to inclusion. If you don't feel that belonging and if people are not creating that space for you, you have options. So, learn it, come and talk to us, learn a little bit more from us. We've got booths here that you can talk to us about what it means to work in gaming. I had no idea I was going to be able to work in the gaming space. Even as a HR person, I know a lot about gaming. It's fun. Tell me, it's fun. We make games, we color things and we bring things to life. And we talk about delighting our players. We talk about delighting our kingsters, right? It's not just our players, it's also the people that work for us. So find those companies that bring you joy, because I have a lot of joy at work. Even when we say there's not a lot of people that look like me at work, there are these amazing queens sitting next to me that, we champion each other. We're holding hands here, on stage, and we're representing because we want to make a change for the generations to come. But this is a type of, look for the kind of company that allows you to do that.
I think I'm going to be really brief because we do want to hear from you. So I guess my advice would be, don't shrink yourself to be more palatable for an organisation. Be the culture add, not the culture fit, and be the change you want to see.
I should have started over there. I have to say, honestly, I plus 1,000 to everything that has been said so far. Definitely make sure that you are also evaluating whether this is the place where you can show up as yourself. Ask those probing questions. Make sure that they are prepared also to come back to you if they don't have the answer in that interview, if it's an interview, or if you're sitting at the table and having conversations as partners. Make sure that you have assessed that this is the place where you can be authentic and be yourself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we're going to open for everyone to ask questions. If you have any, please do. Anyone? Yeah?
Thank you for everything that you've shared with us today. I guess I just wanted to say, how do you think it would be, without coming across problematic in the workspace, how would it be a good way to encourage your employers that you need allies in your workplace, and not necessarily because they're doing it because they're trying to be problematic. Sometimes they just don't know. How do you think it would be a good way to put that message across without coming across problematic, because you want to be part of the solution? Because you guys said diversity is important, but inclusion and belonging also comes with that.
That's a really great question. I think, a lot of the times, sometimes we, Black people, get referred, when we're passionate, or when we're confident, we get referred to as being aggressive or intimidating or scary. Yeah. But I think times are changing and people need to listen. There's a way to bring your authentic story to the table. And the passion that you show, you can set the scene and say, look, I'm talking to you because I've got trauma that I'm going through that I need you to understand. And if companies are not understanding that we have our stories and how we feel also is important, then that's a problem. We do need to, inclusion is the biggest part, and the sense of belonging. When, the tragedy of George Floyd happened and, King opened up listening circles and Des was leading on these listening circles, people came with respect, with listening to us, and where we could share our stories, and people started to have that empathy and that understanding. I think people are going through a journey. Our colleagues, our peers, our white counterparts, and so on, they're also going through a learning journey where I try to keep calm with my, the feelings that I have. Is, there is a space amongst us where we can, we can express and be together and grief. But when we're also showing up, we have to also find the right balance and saying, look, let me express myself in a way that's helping people learn, because I think it's a huge learning curve where we're going through when we talk about the inclusion piece and the belonging piece. But people need to respect that there is trauma that's been carried by the Black community. There's a lot of baggage that we have, right? And companies need to create that space. So it's not just on you to feel like I need to act a certain way, but companies need to do that so that you can express yourself in the way that you feel safe and confident.
I can also, if I understood your question as well, and piggybacking on what Naz said, one of the things that I work a lot with now more than ever in teams that are becoming more and more diverse by nationality and language, where we have English as a common thread, definitely for the Stockholm office, but it's very difficult for people to understand the cultural context of a Black experience in when they have just come, and the only thing that they've been able to do is learn the language, learn English, right? So they haven't had time to do any background or deep dives in cultural differences, even racism. So one of the things that I try to do is encourage, first and foremost, not only healthy team and people dynamics, but as a part of that, setting up sort of our rules and code for how we support each other based on culture and ethnicity and those differences that we need to tap into in order to be a high-performing and happy team. So the context of why it is important in the work environment is one of the reasons why I bring it up so much, because that is how we all show up, that is how we get our best work. It's also how we want the rest of the world outside of our work environment to be. So we model it in the way we are at work, and if we can't see it outside of our walls. Are there any other questions? Oh, there's one over there.
Thank you so much for taking part. It's been really interesting hearing about your personal stories.
Thank you.
I'm interested to hear if you've had mentors in your career so far, whether in King or otherwise, and what roles they've played in, accelerating your career or supporting you through your career. Or if you've been mentors to others, what has that support relationship looked like?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I've had a lot of champions in the background opening doors for me at King, creating these. It was based on there were situations that were happening that were not known around. Opportunities like secondments to go to Singapore to do something with a small studio that King was acquiring, and I was like, why am I being chosen? And I was told, when you perform the way you do, you get to pick these opportunities. And it was so there were champions behind the scenes that were endorsing me. And then from a mentorship perspective, I actually had the opportunity of having a HR business partner intern a couple of years ago, worked with me at King for 6 weeks, and she was exploring what it meant to be in HR, and we gave her the opportunity to rotate in work with the game teams and do a bit of learning and development activities and doing some engagement activities with the teams. And till this day, she does. I still mentor her, and she works at Accenture. She's on a rotation with them. She's doing brilliant, and just seeing her flourish and grow is just amazing. So I think it's about us also finding people that we can, take under our wings and enable. Because when they see people like us, and they say, I can do it too. So it's important for us to have champions and mentors, as well as us giving back as well, and making sure we open those doors for others.
I actually haven't had formal mentoring, but I would agree that the champion is definitely, I've come across a couple of champions, and that has been monumental. These informal moments where someone is pushing for you to succeed, and you just all of a sudden find that it's not necessarily in a corrupt way or anything like that, but it is that all of a sudden you don't see it in front of you, but that person sees, hey, this is something that I think you should go for, right? Or even just listening, having someone that listens to you that's in a position of success or a position that you can envision for yourself. When they open that door, just by listening to you and confirming, yeah, I think you've got something there, you're onto the right idea, that is a tremendous it has a tremendous effect, and it did for me. And I do the same now with those that I have 2 mentees that I mentor outside of King and outside of actually a program with King. And it is one of the most enriching experiences, actually, to have a mentee relationship. So thanks for the question.
I just want to add on. I haven't had a mentor during my career, and at some points in my career it has felt like pushing mud uphill. So that is why I now pay it forward and do mentor. I've got 2 mentees because I want to open doors and I want to share experiences so that it can help those individuals to progress on, which I kind of wish I had early on in my career when I was a lot younger. And so I didn't feel so frustrated and I didn't feel like I was, constantly pushing on. Like a hand down would have been ideal.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more. Yeah?
Hi. So first of all, thank you so much for the very interesting panel. I'm going to take away a fair number of things. So I do not identify as a black female. I'm a woman of color and a mother and a late career professional in the research space, applied science space. How do I become a good ally is the question I had.
I love that question. I have been really hoping I've been going to a lot of talks recently, listening in on specifically the topic of allyship and how does it work and how does one become one. And I think the reason why is because when the phrase started to come up around Breonna Taylor's murder and George Floyd's murder, more than anything, at least that's when I first started to hear it, I really wanted to challenge the way it was discussed initially and how one could claim that one was an ally immediately. So I think already the phrasing of your question shows that there's been so many very important discussions around the topic by saying how does one get there as opposed to assuming it, because it takes work. I really do believe that it takes work, it takes intent. It's intentional, the action of allyship, right? And the journey towards becoming an ally is also intentional, it's work. And so I would say, first and foremost, thank you for taking that perspective that there are steps, there are things that I need to do in order to become an ally. One doesn't just assume that position. And I would say, first and foremost, I always encourage people in the teams, and that's one of the leading threads of the listening circles that we held, was curiosity, listening, picking up on those threads of information and education. I mean, our colleagues from Google were here, and I heard one of them just dropping amazing nuggets of knowledge in just every sentence right there. Follow up on those, read more about it. Also, one thing, for any of you who are parents out there, it's interesting, but I realize now, being in Sweden and living in Stockholm for 20 years and having 2 children of my own, it's amazing how much the community that you surround yourself actually reflects your values to your children. What they see is what they will model and what they come to understand. And if you are outside of a community of color or any other identity that is underrepresented often, be mindful that if you have children, who and how you show up in spaces, that also is picked up by your children, and they will in turn do as you do, right? So I would encourage learning, encourage your children to learn, and also reach out and make contact with people that are not exactly from your community so that they also feel that there are bridges that they can cross as well.
Great, Des. I'm just going to tag on that really briefly.
Once you have to follow me.
Yeah, I would say education is key, and I would say practical experience where you can get it. So for myself, I only know my truth and my lived experience, so I then chose to volunteer as a DE&I manager for Pride in London because I wanted to understand about people's lived experience within the LGBTQ plus community. All I know is my experience. So how do I get that practical experience and become a true ally? If we put it in the context of, not being racist and being anti-racist, what do I need to do to be able to educate myself enough to be able to support another cause? And for me, practical learning, if you can get the opportunity to, is absolutely invaluable.
I think that's it. Thank you so much for your
Is that
questions.
a wrap up? Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.